My son gave me the wrong wedding date so I wouldn't show up. I'm Henry Collins and I've been a welder for 35 years. What Ethan didn't know was that his embarrassing blue-collar father had something in his truck that would change everything. A $1.5 million check with his name on it. By the end of that night, I'd torn it up in his face in front of 200 people. And he'd lost more than just money. He'd lost an empire he never knew existed. I stayed quiet for years, thinking silence was respect. I was wrong. See, when your own son lies to keep you away from the biggest day of his life, when he chooses shame over family, that's when a working man has to make a choice. Stay silent and enable disrespect, or stand up and teach the most expensive lesson about dignity you'll ever witness. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Here's how a welder taught his son the cost of shame. The disrespect didn't start with the wedding date. It started 3 years ago when Ethan got promoted to marketing director at his Manhattan agency. First incident, Christmas dinner 2021. Ethan brought Sophie home for the first time. I'd worked a double shift that Friday to make sure I could get Saturday off. Still had grease under my fingernails when I shook her hand. "Dad works with his hands," Ethan said like he was apologizing. "Not Dad's a master welder or Dad built half the infrastructure in Queens. Just works with his hands." Sophie smiled that Connecticut smile. "How interesting," she said, then moved her purse away from my chair. I let it slide. First meetings are awkward. Second incident. Ethan's housewarming party. Spring 2022. His new apartment in Manhattan. $8,500 a month, he told everyone. Twice what I paid for my mortgage. I wore my best shirt. Clean, pressed, no holes. Still got introduced as my dad. He's in construction. Not even he's a welder. Just construction, like I held stop signs on road crews. His coworker asked what I did. "Heavy industrial welding," I said. "Build supports for skyscrapers, bridges, subway tunnels." "Cool," the guy said, genuinely interested. Ethan changed the subject. That night, driving back to Queens in my 2018 F-150, I started noticing things. How Ethan's voice changed when he talked about his work versus mine. How he'd check his phone whenever I mentioned a job site. How he'd started saying "we" when talking about Sophie's family trips, but "I" when talking about visiting me. The text messages made it worse. Short answers. "Busy. Call you later. Can't this weekend." But Sophie's family, Ethan drove to Connecticut every other weekend. Posted photos of their country club, their yacht, their family traditions. Never posted anything about our family traditions, like fixing his motorcycle when he was 16. Like teaching him to weld that summer he couldn't find a job. Like paying for his college when the scholarship money fell short. I told myself he was just busy. New relationship, new responsibilities, kids grow up, move on. That's normal. Then came the engagement announcement. March 2024. I found out on Facebook. Not a phone call, not a visit. Facebook. Sophie Bennett and Ethan Collins are engaged. Big photo of them at some fancy restaurant. Her ring probably cost more than my truck. I called him that night. "Congratulations, son. I'm happy for you." "Thanks, Dad." Silence. "We're planning a small ceremony. Whatever you want. You know, I'll be there." "Yeah, sure. We'll talk details later." Later never came. Every conversation about the wedding got postponed. Still figuring things out. Sophie's handling the planning. You'll be the first to know. Meanwhile, his social media showed constant wedding prep, venue tours, cake tastings, dress fittings. They had a timeline. They had a guest list. They had everything except my involvement. The exclusion was surgical, precise, professional. June 2024, I offered to help pay. "Ethan, weddings are expensive. I can contribute." "Dad, that's not necessary. We've got it covered. I'm your father. Let me help." "Really, Dad? We're fine." But they weren't fine. I knew what Manhattan weddings cost. I knew what Ethan made, and I knew Sophie's family had opinions about appropriate contributions from his side. The wrong invitation arrived August 15th, hand-delivered by mail, formal as a legal document. Mr. Henry Collins cordially invited September 22, 2024. Plaza Hotel, Manhattan. Beautiful invitation, expensive paper, gold lettering, wrong date. The real wedding was September 21st. I found out by accident. September 19th, Thursday evening, I was finishing up a job in Midtown. Emergency repair on a building's fire escape system. The kind of work they call you for when someone's life depends on it being done right. My phone buzzed. Text from my old high school friend, Laura Whitman. Now, Judge Laura Whitman, Brooklyn Family Court. Henry, so excited to officiate Ethan's wedding Saturday. See you there. Saturday, September 21st. My invitation said Sunday, September 22nd. I stared at that text for 10 minutes. Sitting in my truck, still in my work clothes, tools in the bed rattling every time the wind picked up. One day off, just one day, not a mistake, not a typo, a deliberate choice to keep me away. I drove home to Queens, thinking about what silence costs a man, what swallowing disrespect does to your soul, what message you send when you enable your own erasure. That night, I pulled out the documents I'd been preparing for months. Ethan's wedding gift. Not just the $1.5 million check, the real gift. Partnership papers for Collins Industrial Group. 3 buildings in Queens worth $4.2 million each. Total value, $12.6 million. 50% ownership transferred to Ethan Collins upon marriage. I built this empire quietly, one investment at a time. Bought my first building in 1995 with money saved from 15 years of welding. Bought the second in 2003 when the market crashed. Bought the third in 2009 during the recession when sellers were desperate. Steady rent income, commercial tenants, long-term leases, the kind of boring blue-collar wealth that society folks never see coming. Ethan didn't know. Nobody knew except my accountant and lawyer. I'd planned to surprise him at the wedding, hand him the partnership papers during my father of the groom speech, watch his face when he realized his embarrassing welder dad had set him up for life. Now I sat at my kitchen table looking at those papers, looking at that check, looking at my son's real wedding invitation next to the fake one they'd sent me. The stakes were clear. If I stayed silent, if I honored their deception, I'd be teaching Ethan that disrespect works. That shame pays dividends. That you can erase people without consequences. He'd get married thinking he'd successfully hidden his blue-collar father. Sophie's family would never know where the money really came from. Ethan would inherit an empire while denying the man who built it. Worse, he'd never learn. The disrespect would continue. The shame would deepen. Eventually, I'd become the grandfather they hide from their children. The family secret whispered about but never acknowledged. But if I showed up, if I confronted this lie publicly, the stakes were even higher. Ethan would be humiliated in front of his new wife, her family, their social circle. Our relationship might never recover. The wedding could be ruined. Sophie might blame me for destroying their perfect day. And the money, the partnership, the empire I'd built for him, that would depend on how he reacted. How he chose to handle the truth in front of the people whose approval he valued more than his father's dignity. Friday night, I made my decision. I ironed my best suit, the navy blue one I'd bought for Ethan's college graduation. Still fit. Still looked respectable. I put the $1.5 million check in my jacket pocket. The partnership papers in a manila envelope. I was going to that wedding not to cause trouble, not to make a scene, just to be there, to stand in the back if necessary, to watch my son get married, even if he didn't want me there. What happened next would be up to Ethan. Saturday morning, September 21st, the real wedding day. I drove to Manhattan in my F-150. Traffic was light for a Saturday. I had Laura's text with the correct details. Plaza Hotel, Oak Room, 4 p.m. ceremony. I parked 6 blocks away. Didn't want Ethan to see my truck and panic before I could talk to him. The Plaza Hotel lobby was everything you'd expect. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, people in $1,000 outfits checking their phones. I felt every stare, but I kept walking. Elevator to the mezzanine level. Oak room straight ahead. Wedding setup in progress. White chairs in perfect rows. Flowers that probably cost more than most people's cars. Staff in black uniforms adjusting microphones and testing sound. I spotted Ethan immediately. He was standing near the altar talking with the wedding planner, navy tuxedo, probably custom-made, hair perfect, looking like everything Sophie's family wanted in a son-in-law. He saw me before I reached him. The color drained from his face. Complete shock, like seeing a ghost. Dad. His voice cracked. What are you? How did you? Hello, Ethan. The wedding planner sensed tension and disappeared. Dad, the wedding's tomorrow. You got the wrong day. I pulled out both invitations. The real one from Laura, the fake one they'd sent me. Saturday the 21st, I said, reading from Laura's text. Or Sunday the 22nd. I held up their invitation. Ethan's mouth opened. Nothing came out. 35 years I've been straightforward with you, I said. Never lied once, even when the truth hurt. Dad, I can explain. Which date is real, Ethan? He looked around the room. Guests would start arriving in 2 hours. Sophie was probably upstairs getting ready. Her family was coming from Connecticut. Saturday, he whispered. So, you lied. Dad, it's complicated. No, it's simple. You gave me wrong information, so I wouldn't be here. Ethan's face shifted, guilt to defensiveness in seconds. Look, Dad, this isn't about you. It's about Sophie's family. They have certain expectations. About what? About the kind of people we associate with. People like me. People who don't understand this world. I looked around the Oak Room. This world of honest work and family respect. This world of social connections and professional relationships. And I don't belong here. Ethan straightened his tie, getting his confidence back. Dad, you're a welder. Sophie's father is a surgeon. Her mother sits on museum boards. Their friends are lawyers, executives, professors. They speak differently. They dress differently. They have different interests. Different from what? Different from construction work and pickup trucks and what, Ethan? And coming home with grease under your fingernails. There it was. 30 years of raising him, and that's what he saw. Dirty hands. Those dirty hands put you through college. I know, Dad. And I'm grateful. Those dirty hands fixed your motorcycle when you couldn't afford a mechanic. I remember. Those dirty hands taught you how to build things when you couldn't find a summer job. Dad, please. And now those dirty hands embarrass you. Ethan looked at his shoes. Expensive Italian leather. It's not about embarrassment. It's about fit. I don't fit with your wife's family. You don't fit with our social circle, so you lied. So, I protected you from an uncomfortable situation. I stared at my son, this man I'd raised to tell the truth, work hard, respect family, this stranger in a custom tuxedo who thought lying was protection. Protected me from what? From feeling out of place. Or protected yourself from being ashamed. That's not fair. What's not fair is lying to your father about your wedding day. Ethan checked his watch. Expensive Swiss. Probably a gift from Sophie's parents. Dad, we can talk about this later. People are going to start arriving soon, including me. Dad, I'm staying for the wedding, Ethan. That's not a good idea. It's my son's wedding. It's Sophie's day. It's both your day, and I'm your father. Ethan's jaw tightened. If you stay, you'll ruin everything. By existing, by making people uncomfortable. Which people? Important people. More important than your father. Silence. That silence told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in my son's priorities. I'll stay in the back. I said, won't talk to anyone. Won't embarrass you. Dad, please just go home. We'll have dinner next week and talk about this. After the honeymoon, after things settle down, after you don't need me anymore. Ethan's phone buzzed. Text message, probably Sophie wondering where he was. I have to get ready, he said. So do I. I walked toward the back of the room, found a chair in the last row. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, then headed for the exit. The wedding was in 2 hours. The real one was just getting started. I sat in that back row watching the final setup. Wedding staff adjusting flowers, testing microphones, arranging programs on each chair. The programs were beautiful, thick cardstock, gold embossing, Sophie Bennett and Ethan Collins. It read, "United in love and commitment." No mention of families. No son of Henry Collins or daughter of Richard and Margaret Bennett. Just two names floating in elegant script unattached to any history or heritage. My phone buzzed. Text message from Michael Harris. "Henry catering the Collins-Bennett wedding today. Didn't know it was your boy. Great venue. See you in there." I stared at that text. Michael Harris, my business partner in 3 construction projects over the last decade. Owner of Harris Fine Catering. The man handling Ethan's wedding reception. Ethan had no idea who was catering his wedding. Sophie probably picked Harris's company from some high-end vendor list, never thinking to ask about connections to the blue-collar world they were trying to escape. I texted back, "See you soon." Another text, this one from my property manager. "Mr. Collins, the new commercial tenant in Building 2, wants to extend their lease early. 5-year extension at current rate plus 15% increase. Good news for cash flow. Should I proceed?" Building 2, the middle building in my 3-property empire. Current rent income $28,000 per month, with the increase $32,200 per month. I did the math quickly. The rent increase alone would generate an extra $50,400 per year, more than some people's salaries, more than Ethan probably thought his poor welder father made in total. "Approve it," I texted back. I looked around the oak room again. Really looked this time. The architectural details, the crown molding, the way the light fixtures were mounted. I knew this work. I'd welded the structural supports for this renovation 15 years ago, the beams hidden behind those elegant walls, the reinforcements that made this room safe for large gatherings. My hands had built this space. My welding had made this wedding possible. But Ethan didn't know that. To him, this was just Sophie's world. Sophisticated, expensive, nothing to do with construction work or blue-collar labor. A hotel employee approached me, young guy, maybe 25. "Excuse me, sir. Are you with the Collins or Bennett party?" "Collins," I said. "Great. I'm Ryan Cooper, Assistant Event Coordinator. Just wanted to confirm you're the groom's father." "I am." Ryan checked his tablet. "I don't see you on the seating chart. Are you giving a speech during the reception?" "A speech." Father of the groom. Traditional moment where the father welcomes the new daughter-in-law to the family, shares wisdom about marriage, tells stories about the groom's childhood. "That hadn't been discussed," I said. "No problem. I'll check with the bride and groom." Usually, the father of the groom speaks after the maid of honor. Ryan walked off, tablet in hand, likely texting Ethan about the speech situation. My jacket pocket felt heavy, the $1.5 million check, the envelope with partnership papers, Ethan's inheritance, waiting for the right moment. I'd planned to present it all during that traditional speech, the grand reveal of his true legacy, the moment Sophie's family would learn where the real wealth came from. Now, I wondered if I'd even get that chance, if Ethan would acknowledge me publicly, or if I'd remain the hidden father, tucked away in the back row, erased from the program, the photos, the memories. Another text from Michael Harris. "Just saw the guest list. Bennett family heavy on doctors and lawyers. Collins' side looks thin. Just you?" "Just me," I replied. "Your boy know about your buildings?" "Not yet. Might be a good day for a surprise." "Might be." I pocketed my phone and watched sunlight stream through the tall windows, filling the empty room. In 2 hours, this space would brim with people celebrating Ethan and Sophie's new life. The question was whether I'd be part of that joy or just an unwelcome shadow to my own exclusion. The manila envelope crinkled as I shifted in my chair. Some surprises, I realized, cut both ways. Guests arrived by 3:30 p.m., exactly the crowd Ethan described. Sophie's side filled first, designer gowns, tailored suits, people who moved through events like this with ease. Chats about art exhibits, Hamptons retreats, their kids' Ivy League acceptances. Ethan's side stayed sparse. A few college buddies, some agency co-workers, maybe 20 people total. The contrast was sharp. Bride's side, 150 guests. Groom's side, 20. Sophie's family took front row seats. Her father, Dr. Richard Bennett, looked like he'd stepped out of a Connecticut boardroom. Silver hair, pricey watch, a posture that radiated confidence. Her mother, Margaret Bennett, wore pearls worth more than my truck. She scanned the room like she was checking for imperfections. I stayed in the back row, unseen. The processional began at 4 p.m. sharp. Wedding march by a string quartet. Professional videographer capturing every detail. Sophie glided down the aisle, born for this moment. Vera Wang dress, likely $45,000. Bouquet of white roses matching the room's floral perfection. She was stunning, I'll admit. And Ethan's face when he saw her, pure devotion. Whatever was broken between us, he truly loved her. Judge Laura Whitman officiated. My old friend looked sharp in her robes, catching my eye once with a warm smile. A small nod of recognition. At least someone was glad I was there. The ceremony flowed smoothly, traditional vows, ring exchange, the works. When Laura pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd burst into applause. Ethan kissed Sophie. Perfect moment, perfect couple, perfect wedding, everything Sophie's family wanted. During the recessional, Ethan spotted me. His eyes widened, realizing I'd stayed. Sophie followed his gaze, saw me in the back. Her smile flickered for a split second. Quick recovery, but I noticed. The receiving line formed in the adjacent reception room. Classic setup. Bride and groom greeting guests, accepting congratulations, posing for photos. I waited until the line thinned. Didn't want to disrupt the busy moments. When I approached, Sophie offered her hand first. "Mr. Collins," she said, polite but distant. "So glad you could make it." "Congratulations, Sophie. You look radiant." "Thank you." Ethan was tense, shoulders stiff, smile forced. "Dad," he said, "good you're here." "Liar." But I held back. "Not yet." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. "How did you?" Sophie started, then stopped herself. "How did I what?" Ethan cut in. "Dad, let's introduce you to Sophie's parents." Dr. Bennett approached with his wife, both smiling, but their eyes stayed guarded. "Richard Bennett," the doctor said, offering a firm handshake, sizing me up. "Henry Collins, Ethan's father." "Of course, we've heard so much about you." Lie number 2. They'd heard nothing because Ethan never spoke of me. "All good things, I hope," I said. Margaret Bennett stepped forward. "We're so pleased to meet you at last." That, "at last," carried weight. "What's your line of work, Henry?" Dr. Bennett asked. Direct question. Time for truth. "I'm a welder," I said. 35 years in heavy industrial construction." The air chilled. "How fascinating," Margaret said, echoing Sophie's tone from 3 years ago. "Polite. Dismissive." "Indeed," Dr. Bennett added. "Vital work, I'm sure. Vital like trash collection or pest control. Necessary but unglamorous." Ethan jumped in. "Dad works on big projects, skyscrapers, bridges, infrastructure." Dr. Bennett nodded. "Very important." Sophie's cousin appeared, young, maybe 25, clearly tipsy. "Uncle Richard, is this Ethan's family?" Awkward pause. "This is Henry," Sophie said. "Ethan's father." "Oh my gosh, you're the one who..." The cousin stopped, glancing nervously. "The one who what?" I asked. "Nothing," Sophie said quickly. "Chloe, let's get you some water." But Chloe was tipsy enough for honesty. "You're the one who wasn't supposed to be here today." Silence. Heads turned. The receiving line froze. "Chloe," Ethan said sharply. "What?" Sophie said you were worried your dad wouldn't blend with our crowd. Thicker silence. "Chloe, please," Margaret said. But Chloe kept going. "She said you were embarrassed because he's just a..." "Enough," Ethan snapped. Too late. The damage was done. "Just a what?" I asked. Chloe hesitated, sensing her mistake. "I didn't mean, just a what, Chloe?" Dr. Bennett tried to step in. "Henry, I'm sure she didn't mean anything." I'd like to hear what she was going to say. Sophie moved forward, damage control mode. "Mr. Collins, Chloe's had too much champagne. She doesn't know what she's saying." I think she knows exactly what she's saying. The receiving line had stalled. Guests stared. The perfect wedding was fracturing. "Dad," Ethan said quietly. "Can we talk privately?" So your wife's family knows I'm an embarrassment, but we need privacy to discuss it. That's exactly what it is, Ethan. I scanned the room. 200 people watching our family drama unfold. The photographer kept shooting, capturing unscripted moments. 35 years I raised you, I said. Paid for your college, your car, your emergencies. Never once made you ashamed of who you are. Dad, please. But you're ashamed of who I am. Sophie's face paled. This wasn't the polished reception she'd envisioned. Perhaps we should move this discussion, Dr. Bennett suggested. Perhaps you should stay out of family matters, I replied. Now it was a showdown. Then Michael Harris appeared. Henry, he called across the reception room. There's my favorite property tycoon. Heads turned. Michael strode toward us, beaming, dressed in his formal catering director attire, thrilled to see me. Michael, I said, shaking his hand. Stunning setup. Only the best for the Collins-Bennett wedding. How's business? Building 3 still pulling in 32 grand a month. Silence. Absolute silence. Sophie's family looked puzzled. Ethan looked ghostly. Business is solid, I said calmly. Henry owns 3 commercial buildings in Queens, Michael announced, oblivious to the tension. Industrial district, prime real estate. This guy's been buying properties for 20 years. Smart money. Dr. Bennett's expression shifted. Properties. Oh, you didn't know? Michael laughed. Henry's one of the biggest private landowners in Queens. Collins Industrial Group. Worth what, 12 million now? The number lingered like a fog. Margaret's mouth parted slightly. 12 million. Easy, Michael said. Maybe more with the market climbing. Henry's been playing the long game since the 90s. Started with 1 building, kept growing. Classic blue-collar success story. Ethan stared at me like I was a stranger. Dad, he said softly. Before I could respond, another voice broke through. Henry Collins, is that you? We turned. A woman in an elegant dress approached, smiling broadly. Isabella Carter, she said, offering her hand. Carter Development Group. We met at the Queen's Business Council last month. More stares. Queen's Business Council wasn't a welders' union. Isabella, I said, shaking her hand. Great to see you. I had no idea this was your son's wedding. Ethan Collins, you must be so proud. Your father's company has been key to the Queen's waterfront project. Sophie looked ready to collapse. Company. She managed. Collins Industrial Group, Isabella said. Henry's a major player in Queen's commercial development. Didn't you know? She glanced at the stunned faces. Oh, family humility, I get it. Henry's always been quiet about his success. Another voice cut in. Henry Collins. A man in a navy suit pushed through the guests. I recognized him instantly. Commissioner David Lawson, I said. Didn't expect you here. Wouldn't miss it. Saw Collins on the guest list. Had to see if it was you. He turned to the group. Everyone, this is Henry Collins. His company just finished structural work on our new Queens Community Center. Flawless job. Commissioner? Dr. Bennett asked faintly. Queensboro Development Commission, Lawson explained. Henry's been our go-to contractor for municipal projects for 5 years. Reliable, professional, always on budget. He looked at Ethan. You must be Ethan. Your dad talks about you constantly, says you're in marketing. Ethan nodded, speechless. Sharp kid. Bet he learned business savvy from his old man. Henry's got one of the keenest real estate minds I've ever seen. The crowd around us grew. Whispers spread that the groom's father was a hidden tycoon. A waiter approached, one of Michael's staff. Excuse me, Mr. Collins. Mr. Harris asked me to deliver this. He handed me an envelope. The quarterly report you requested. I opened it. Property income statement for Collins Industrial Group. Third quarter 2024. Gross rental income $267,000. I read aloud. Net profit after expenses $189,000. I looked at Sophie's family. Per quarter. Margaret's pearls couldn't hide her shock. She started, calculating. $750,000 a year in rental income alone, I said, not counting property appreciation. Dr. Bennett found his voice. Henry, we had no idea. Ethan didn't tell you about the family business. I looked at my son. His face had cycled through shades of pale. There's no shame in honest work, I said to the crowd. Whether it's welding steel, managing properties, or performing surgery, value lies in integrity, not titles. Commissioner Lawson nodded. Henry's been a cornerstone of the Queen's business community, always hiring local, supporting civic projects. True leadership. Isabella Carter chimed in. The waterfront project wouldn't have happened without Collins Industrial's involvement. Henry donated land use for the planning phase. Donated? Sophie asked. Pro bono community service, I explained. Wealth comes with responsibility. Michael Harris returned with champagne. Let's toast Henry Collins, master welder, property magnate, father of the groom. Guests raised glasses. The photographer captured it all. Sophie's cousin Chloe, the tipsy one who'd sparked this, stumbled forward. Wait, she slurred. So Ethan's dad is rich? Chloe, please, Margaret hissed. No, but Sophie said he was embarrassing because he was poor and worked with his hands. Chloe. Sophie snapped. But the damage was snowballing. Guests were piecing it together. So why did Ethan say his dad couldn't afford? Someone whispered. And why isn't he in the program? Another murmured. I watched Ethan's face as the truth sank in. He hadn't just been ashamed of his poor father. He'd lied about his wealthy father, to his wife, her family, himself. The very wealth that could have impressed Sophie's parents, the status they craved, was hidden because Ethan was ashamed of how it was earned. Dad, Ethan said softly. Can we talk privately? Sure, I said. Right after I present your wedding gift. I reached into my jacket. The manila envelope crinkled. 200 guests watched. The photographer zoomed in. This was the moment everything shifted. I pulled out the envelope, thick with legal documents. Before I give you your wedding gift, I said to Ethan, I want everyone to understand what family really means. The crowd leaned in, 200 people hanging on every word. 35 years ago, I started with nothing. Welding apprentice, 23, married to Ethan's mother. We lived in a Queen's basement apartment. Saved every dime. Sophie's family was riveted. This wasn't the story they'd expected. By the time Ethan was born, I'd saved enough for my first building. Small warehouse, rough shape, but solid bones. Fixed it up myself, found tenants, reinvested profits. I opened the envelope, pulled out the deeds. Building 2 came 5 years later. Building 3 a decade after that. Each purchase deliberate, each renovation precise. Built an empire, one weld, one lease, one choice at a time. Judge Laura Whitman had edged closer. She knew where this was headed. The plan was always clear, I continued. Build something enduring. Create generational wealth. Set Ethan up for life. I handed him the first document. Partnership agreement for Collins Industrial Group. 50% ownership, I said. Effective upon marriage. Congratulations, Ethan. You're a millionaire. Ethan stared at the papers, hands trembling. Sophie peered over his shoulder, reading. Her eyes widened. This says, she started. $12.6 million in assets, I said. Half is now yours, Ethan. $6.3 million. The crowd gasped and clapped. Sophie's parents stood frozen, jaws slack. Commissioner Lawson whistled. Henry, that's staggering generosity. That's family, I said. But I wasn't finished. I reached into my other pocket, pulled out the check. J.P. Morgan Chase cashier's check, made out to Ethan and Sophie Collins. And this, I said, raising the check, is your wedding gift. I showed it to the crowd. The amount was bold and clear, $1.5 million. More gasps. Someone in the back clapped loudly. Dad, Ethan whispered. This comes from your new company's quarterly profits, I explained. Consider it your first dividend. I handed him the check. Ethan held it like it might burn. Sophie stared at the figures. Dr. Bennett stepped forward. Henry, This is remarkably generous. This is what family does, I said. We lift each other up. We stand by each other. We show up. Pause. Let that land. Even when we're given the wrong wedding date. The room went cold again. Sophie's face drained of color. Mr. Collins. You see, I said to the crowd, Ethan feared I'd embarrass him today. A working man with calloused hands at a refined Manhattan wedding. I scanned the room, 200 pairs of eyes locked on me. So, he gave me the wrong date, September 22nd instead of September 21st. Made sure his blue-collar father wouldn't appear to shame him in front of the elite. The silence was heavy. But here's what Ethan didn't grasp, I continued. These calloused hands built everything you see here. The empire you just inherited, the check you're holding, the future you'll never need to fear. I stepped closer to Ethan. If you're ashamed of the hands that forged your fortune, you don't deserve the fortune they forged. I reached out. Ethan thought I wanted a handshake. Instead, I took the check back. Dad, what are you? I tore it in half. The rip echoed in the silent room. Dad, no. I tore it again. 4 pieces now. Stop. Sophie cried. I tore it again. 8 pieces. That's $1.5 million. Dr. Bennett shouted. That was $1.5 million, I corrected. The check fragments fluttered to the marble floor like confetti. And this, I said, reaching for the partnership papers in Ethan's hands. Dad, please. Ethan tried to pull them away, but I was stronger, 35 years of labor stronger. I tore the agreement in half. Dad, you can't. I tore it again. Those are legal documents. Margaret shrieked. Those were legal documents, I said. More pieces fell to the floor. Ethan's inheritance, shredded before 200 witnesses. $6.3 million, I told the crowd. Gone. Ethan dropped to his knees, scrambling for the scraps. We can tape them together. They're still valid. Legal validity needs signatures, I said calmly. These were never signed. Sophie was sobbing, real tears, not wedding tears. Why? She choked out. Why would you do this? I looked at my son, still crawling on the marble, gathering paper bits. Because wealth without character is nothing, I said. I won't reward a man ashamed of his family. I turned to the crowd one last time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for disrupting this joyous event. But sometimes a father must teach his son what truly matters. I glanced at Ethan, still on the floor. When you're ready to honor your family, son, we'll talk about your inheritance again. I walked toward the exit. The crowd parted like a tide. Ethan's voice called my name, but I kept moving. The oak room doors closed softly behind me. In the hallway, my phone buzzed with texts, but I ignored them. I had a long drive back to Queens. The aftermath hit before I reached my truck. Texts flooded my phone. Missed calls, voicemails. By the parking garage, my phone was relentless. First message, from Judge Laura Whitman. Henry, that took courage. Call when you're ready. Second, from Commissioner Lawson. Henry, that was either the boldest or wildest parenting I've seen. Coffee soon. Third, from Michael Harris. Holy hell, Henry. That was explosive. You okay? I didn't reply. Drove to Queens in silence, replaying what I'd done. Destroyed $6.3 million in partnerships. Tore up a $1.5 million check. Humbled my son at his wedding, maybe severed our bond forever, but taught him a priceless lesson about respect and family that money can't buy. By Sunday morning, the story had spread like wildfire, not online, but through our circles, Queens business, Brooklyn legal, Manhattan elite. My phone showed 47 missed calls. Sunday afternoon, Ethan appeared at my house, still in his wedding suit, looking wrecked, red eyes, tie loose, hair a mess. Dad, he said at my door. We need to talk. Come in. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I decided to crash his wedding. Fitting. Sophie's parents think you're unhinged, he said. I don't care what Sophie's parents think. Sophie thinks you ruined our wedding. Did I? Ethan went quiet for a long stretch. The photographer caught it all, he said finally. The confrontation, the check tearing, everything. Good. Solid evidence, I said. For when you try to rewrite history. Ethan scanned my kitchen, really seeing it for the first time in years. This house, he said, worth what, 200,000? 240, per the last assessment. But you're worth 12 million. Was worth 12 million. Now 3 million, because I destroyed half rather than give it to someone who dishonors its source. Ethan dropped his head into his hands. I messed up, he said. Yes, you did. I can't fix this with Sophie's family. You shouldn't have to. Your wife married you, not them. Her father called you erratic. Her father's a surgeon who inherited his wealth. He's never built anything from scratch. Her mother said you were out of line. Her mother wears pearls worth more than most cars and calls that tasteful. Ethan looked up. Sophie's talking annulment. That struck deep. Despite my issues with Sophie, I didn't want Ethan's marriage to end because of me. Over the money? I asked. Over the embarrassment. Her family won't forget this. Every time they see me, they'll see you tearing that check. Maybe that's not bad. Dad, listen. If your wife wants to leave because you have a father who demands respect, she's not the right wife. But the money, it was always conditional. On what? On you being a man worth investing in. Silence. Monday, my lawyer called. Henry, I've been swamped with calls all weekend. Half of Queen's business wants to know if you've lost it. The other half wants to buy you a beer. Tuesday, Ethan called. Dad, I need to ask something. Go ahead. The partnership papers, were they real? Drafted by Manhattan's top firm, notarized, witnessed, ready to sign. So if you hadn't torn them, I'd be $6.3 million richer. Pause. And the check? Real cashier's check, J.P. Morgan Chase, $1.5 million. My God, Dad. Now you see what your shame cost. Is there a way to redo this? For financial reasons or personal ones? Long pause. Both, he admitted. The financial depends on the personal. What's that mean? When you can honor your father publicly, we'll revisit your inheritance. I am proud of you, Dad. No, you're proud of my wealth. That's not the same. Wednesday, Sophie called, our first direct talk since the wedding. Mr. Collins, I owe you an apology. You owe me nothing, Sophie. I pushed Ethan to exclude you. That was wrong. Yes, it was. I worried about my family's reaction to, what? Social gaps? You mean class gaps? Yes. Honest, at least. Mr. Collins, can we start fresh? That depends. On what? On whether you want to start fresh out of respect or to get the money back. Her silence spoke volumes. Thursday, Commissioner Lawson called. Henry, Queensboro Development wants you on our Community Investment Committee advisory role. I'm in. Good. Your actions at that wedding showed the integrity we need in public service. You approve of what I did? I respect a man who'd burn millions to stand by his principles. That's rare. Friday, a week post-wedding, Ethan returned. Dad, I've been reflecting all week. You were right. About what, exactly? About my shame. About prioritizing Sophie's family's approval over our bond. About lying instead of defending you. Keep going. I want to fix this. How? By owning you publicly. By telling the truth about my roots and what you've built. And Sophie? She's learning. Her parents might take longer. If they don't come around, they're lost. I studied my son, still in pricey clothes, still a Manhattan professional, but something new in his eyes. Ethan, the money's not the point. I know. Respect can't be bought back. I know. So what do you want? A chance to be the son you raised me to be. I stood, went to my safe, pulled a new manila envelope. New partnership papers, I said. 25% ownership, not 50. Ethan's face sank. Because I don't deserve full partnership. Because you must earn the rest. Oh. By rebuilding trust. By proving you value family over status. Ethan nodded. And the wedding gift? Still in pieces on the plaza floor. So, no money. It was never about money, Ethan. It was about respect. I handed him the new papers. 25% of $6. $3 million is still transformative wealth, I said. If you want it. Ethan looked at the papers, then at me. I want to earn it, he said. Good answer. 6 months later, Ethan and I met for coffee every Saturday. Not at a trendy Manhattan spot, but at Mickey's Diner in Queens, near my first building. He'd drive from Manhattan in his BMW, still in upscale clothes, but now he'd dive into real talk, property management, tenant relations, market trends. Building 2's lease renewal came through, he said one March Saturday. $38,000 a month for 5 years. Solid work, I said. That's a 12% jump from the last lease. Learned from the best. Ethan earned his 25% through 6 months of grit, visiting sites, meeting tenants. Learning wealth takes work. How's Sophie? I asked. Better. She's been coming to Queens, seeing the buildings, meeting tenants. Her parents? Adjusting slowly. They invited us to dinner last week. Progress. Dr. Bennett asked about your welding. Seemed genuinely curious. People can change, I said. Sometimes. Ethan stirred his coffee, served in Mickey's thick white mugs. Nothing fancy. Dad, one thing. Ask away. The other 25%. What do I need to do? I'd anticipated this. It's not about money anymore, Ethan. It's about character. I get it. Do you? Character isn't bought or inherited. You build it like I built those properties, one choice at a time. Ethan nodded. So, what's the test? No test. Character shows when no one's looking, when it's tough, when it costs you. Like tearing up a $1.5 million check. Like choosing family over status. We sat in easy silence. Mickey's buzzed with Saturday regulars, workers, shop owners, local families. Ethan used to squirm around these folks. Now he belonged. News, he said. Sophie's pregnant. I set my coffee down. Congratulations. Found out yesterday. 8 weeks along. How do you feel? Scared, thrilled, grateful. Sophie. Happy, but nervous about her parents' take on the pregnancy. On raising a kid who's half blue-collar Queens, half Connecticut elite. I chuckled. That kid'll be something else. They'll learn both worlds, Ethan said. Country clubs and job sites, trust funds and hard labor, pearls and welding masks. Good. Balance matters. Ethan pulled an envelope from his jacket. What's that? Something for you. He handed me a sonogram. Blurry black and white, but unmistakably a baby. Due October 15th, he said. I stared at it. My first grandchild. Dad, I want this kid to be proud of both grandfathers, the surgeon and the welder. They should be. I want them to know wealth can come from inheritance or building something with your hands. Key lesson. I want them to learn respect isn't about your job, it's how you treat people. I looked up from the sonogram. Ethan's eyes were earnest. Above all, he said, I want them to know family shows up, no matter what. Even with the wrong date. My chest tightened. Pride, maybe relief. Ethan, I said, you just earned your other 25%. His eyes widened. Really? Full partnership. Collins Industrial Group is ours now. I pulled updated partnership papers from my jacket, carried for 2 weeks, waiting for this. Congratulations, I said, sliding them across the table. You're worth $6.3 million. Ethan eyed the papers but didn't touch them. Dad, one more thing. Sure. When the baby's born, will you teach them to weld? I smiled. If they want to learn, boy or girl, doesn't matter. Everyone should know how to build with their hands. Ethan picked up the papers, studied them. Equal partners, he said. Equal partners. First decision as co-owners? I pointed to the sonogram. College fund. Smart call. How much? Whatever it takes. Ethan grinned. I love you, Dad. Love you too, son. We finished our coffee and headed to scout a potential fourth building. Father and son, equal partners, family business.